This show is sponsored by Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. Hello, all my entrepreneurs and business leaders, and welcome to the Michael Esposito Show, where I interview titans of industry in order to inform, educate, and inspire you to be great. My guest today is the founder and CEO of Achieve Integrative Health, a clinic whose mission is to help 1 million people make pain and suffering optional through natural healing. He's earned his bachelor's degree in biochemistry from the University of Texas at Austin and his master's degree in oriental medicine from the Texas Health and Science University. As a licensed acupuncturist, his training is in traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, herbs, nutrition, and functional medicine. He is the author to the book, Achieve a Life of Wellness. He also mentors and coaches physicians, physician assistants, nurse practitioners, acupuncturists, chiropractors, and other healthcare providers on the topic of achieving wellness. His specialty in acupuncture neurology landed him a seat as the only acupuncturist on the Medical Advisory Committee for the Neuropathy Alliance of Texas, alongside Austin's top neurologists. He has been featured as a speaker on Fox 7, We Are Austin, CBS, Rotary International, and much more. Please welcome my well-noted guest, Dr. Jimmy Yen. Welcome.
Thank you, Michael. I'm excited to be on this show. And I thought it was a short bio. When you're reading it, it was actually pretty long.
It's a pretty long one, and but it is missing something. It's missing that you are also very well known on TikTok.
Yes.
Now
recording in progress.
Oh, and I just realized my Zoom wasn't recording, but that's not important for the podcast, so we won't get too distracted by that. I just brought up the TikTok piece, and that wasn't part of your whole bio there. You are known as the TikTok acupuncturist as well. Yes,
that is something fairly new. It's something that I was forced into because of COVID. But I'm thankful that it happened because I've discovered a marketing strategy that I despised, hated, but now I use it to get new patients or customers for my clinic.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty cool because your TikTok is what I found when I was kind of scrolling through it is it's educational. You're sharing a lot of information inside the practice to help people, and so I'm assuming that based off of some of those tips and challenges that you put out there, people are reaching out based off of that.
Oh yeah, it's actually I just when I was at my practice this morning, and one of the patients my associates are treating. And I was just walking by, and like, "Oh, there he is!" It's like, "I saw you on TikTok, and that's the reason why I'm here." And so those moments are awesome.
Yeah.
So I was playing celebrity. I was like, "Okay, let's take a picture." And so we took a picture, and yeah, it's fun.
There's a cool celebrity that comes with it.
Exactly.
Before we got started recording, we were just kind of chatting about different things, and you were mentioning, I was asking you about 10X stages, and you were talking about Grant Cardone's idea of the word that you used was omnipresent. And so while we're on this topic, you want to share a little bit more about that, being omnipresent and how that's impacted? Obviously, you just shared an example of how it's impacted your practice.
Yeah, and so omnipresence is basically being like the person, your name is the name that comes up in people's mouths. Your pictures, the number one picture that people envision when they think of. For me, they think of the word acupuncture. So that is my goal: is to become omnipresent as the number one acupuncturist in the world, not just in my city, not in the U.S., in the world. And so that is my goal. And when I learned that social media was the best tool to become omnipresent, I just dived in. I jumped in. Because I really didn't start TikTok. Like my TikTok, it was last year. Last year in March was when I actually signed up for TikTok. I was rebellious. I don't know, 2021, I think TikTok had been open for about 2 years, started up 2 years or something like that. I just rebelled it. I thought it was stupid. I thought only kids dancing, stripping, would go on TikTok. Nobody goes on TikTok, right? So for 2 years I rebelled, and then last year finally, like I said, COVID forced me to do it. And I've been growing exponentially in followers.
It's something I kind of want to just dig a little bit further into, because I just did a full day workshop on public speaking yesterday, and one of the participants that were there is 24 years old, and this is a public speaking workshop, and and people are bringing up different issues of eye contact and stage presence and forgetting what they're going to say, things of that nature, and his concern was, how do I brand myself? And
Whoa.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, one, I love that, but I'm like, it's funny how he associated this public speaking forum. These are all pretty high level people that are in this workshop. It's put on by Dutch's leadership, and that was his question and concern. And so we did kind of dig down the road, because public speaking and branding yourself are kind of synonymous in that, getting on stage, speaking in front of people. But social media came up. And so what I'm interested in here is that you just said that you only signed up with TikTok only about a year ago, but you're over 1 million followers.
1 million. Yep.
Yeah. And so what I'm interested in that is that, as I'm sharing with that gentleman yesterday, I'm just saying, you got to put yourself out there, you got to brand yourself, and da. But, I'm sure part of his question that I can't answer right now because I'm not up to that number is how to grow a following. So I'm interested in how did you grow that following so quickly?
Yeah. So I figured out, I just stumbled across a formula. And I would say I based it off one of the quotes that I live by, which is Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar said, in so many different ways, you can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want in life, right? I live by that quote. And so when I started TikTok in March, it was March of 2021. Initially, I did not get traction. I mean, like, I had 5 followers, right? There were my employees, my wife, and so my friends, and that was it. And I was just like, even one of my employees who was, at that time, I believe she was 21 years old. She's like, let's compete. Let's see who gets more followers. And so she started her TikTok account at the same time. And when I had 5 followers, I think she got to 100 or something like that. She was crushing me. And then, so I'm not saying that right from the start I got a lot of followers.
Right.
It was a little trial and error. And so when things weren't working, then I went back to that Zig Ziglar quote. The reason why I'm not attracting attention, because that's what we were trying to do, get attention, is because it was all focused on me. I wasn't doing what Zig Ziglar said. Help other people get what they want. And then when that really, that flipped that switch in my brain, I was like, okay, all my posts were about me, because I said who I was. I talked about my business. Nobody cares about who you are in your business. Everybody, dials in to the radio station WIIFM, right? What's in it for me? And so they don't care about anybody else. And so then I was like, okay, what if I just started all my posts about them, and then it would only information that would benefit the listener, and I say nothing about me or my business. Let's try that. And when I did that, I grew exponentially.
That's incredible. And it's funny, I kind of really, I laughed because when you said WIIFM, at the public speaking thing workshop that I did yesterday, I was a co-presenter with another public speaking coach, and he had a slide with that on there, and he said, "Does anybody know what radio station this is?" And I'm looking at it, and to be honest, like I didn't know. I'm looking at it, and I'm going, I've never heard of that radio station. And then you just said it today. I'm like, wow, 2 days in a row. That's wild. But it's so true, and I love that you touched on that about like. The end user, because I mean, like that's, or the listener, or the person watching, because I mean, you and I were just talking about that with my podcast here, is that like it's all about our listener. It's all about how much, what kind of information can we share with them that they can take and actually use in their lives. So just, I mean, while we're just on the topic of your TikTok, what are some of the things that people can learn from your TikTok?
Yeah. So, what I started doing was, biohacking tips. You can call them health tips or biohacking tips. So stuff that you can do at home by yourself to either maintain your health, or maybe you're struggling with some pain. You can, do some acupressure points that can instantly reduce it. It doesn't remove it, but it can instantly reduce it temporarily so that, you can feel a little more comfortable, right? And of course, those tips have to work. Because if they don't work, then people are going to be like, oh, man, whatever he talks about, Jimmy talks about, it doesn't work. Well, obviously, my stuff works, because after 1.1 million followers later, people are still, following me. Yeah. And so that is, so basically, that's what people want. People want to know, what can I do to take care of my own health? And those are the people that I'm attracting.
That's pretty cool. So how did you get into the health space? How did you get into this space of acupuncture and herbals and all this stuff?
Yeah, great question. So it goes back to when I was at University of Texas at Austin. I was studying for my biochemistry degree. And at that time, I was actually studying to become a veterinarian. And then when I was about to, the last year of in college for my bachelor's, my dad, who lives in Taiwan, he told me, hey, he's about to retire, and he wants to study traditional Chinese medicine or acupuncture. And he's like, there's actually 2 acupuncture schools in Austin, Texas. Can you go and research one of the schools for me? Because I want to go to Austin and I want to study it there, which I thought was weird because he's in Taiwan. Why not just go in Taiwan? And so I was like, okay, whatever. I went in, got the information, and that was how I got my foot in the door, right? And then it would just so happen when I was about to graduate, I was at a fork in the road. At that time, at the same time I researched the acupuncture school for my dad, I also met the woman of my dreams. And so I had to make a choice. If I was to go to a veterinary school, I would have to go transfer to a complete different college, and which is 2 or 3 hours away, and I would not be able to pursue this woman. Or, since my dad had introduced me to, there's an acupuncture school in Austin, that became an option. I could study acupuncture, stay in Austin, and pursue the woman, right? So obviously I stayed and pursued the woman who is my wife, and we've been married, 21 years. Wow. So that was my story of how I chose to go to acupuncture. And then it felt, when I went into acupuncture school, it felt like home, because it was part of Chinese medicine is part of my culture. The way my parents raised me, they actually had subliminally, installed or just taught me some of the theories, the practices of traditional Chinese medicine in our daily living. And so it was not foreign at all to me.
So did your dad ever come here for acupuncture school, or was he just setting you up? Was this a plot on his end?
I think he was just setting me up because he never came. But he did end up pursuing acupuncture in Taiwan, but he never came here.
But he never came. So what were the conversations like then between you and him as you were doing the research and kind of starting to find a bit of a passion for it?
Well, I didn't really, I would say gain a strong passion for it until I went into school, right? And then I started learning, oh man, I've been doing this. My dad's been forcing me to do this my whole life. And I'm like, this is medicine? Because that's the beauty of Chinese medicine, is living. Chinese medicine is in your daily living. It's not like taking a pill. It's not even just like taking an herb. It's infused. It's like nutrition. How we eat, how we rest, all of that is traditional Chinese medicine. It's just natural form of medicine. I'm like, I already know all this stuff because my dad had been brainwashing me my whole life about it.
Again, back to public speaking thing here, because this came up yesterday as well, and it's just top of mind for me, and you're kind of touching on some nerves here, in that we were talking about prep into getting on stage, and we were talking about being able to perform, and a lot of it had to do with nutrition and sleep and proper diet and stuff like that. I'm interested in what your tips are in terms of that, not necessarily get on stage and speak, but just with what you're talking about there, where you just said, like, health, sleep, like living this holistic life to where you don't necessarily need pills and medicine, or traditional medicine, that is, like pharmaceutical medicine is what I mean to say.
Yeah, and so I think the world is changing in the sense that they're understanding that, many people have heard the new wealth is health, or health is wealth, right? If you don't have your health, you have nothing.
Yeah.
So what? You have millions of dollars in your bank. So what? You have a big jet. So what? You have a big home. So what? You can go on vacation, but you can't enjoy it. What's the point of all that, right? So health, really, people say it, but I don't think they still really understand that. But if you really focus on your health, you can accomplish everything you want in life. But if you don't have the health, you can't. Period. You can't reach your full potential if you don't focus on your health. So it's not just, eat. It's eating, it's nutrition, it's exercising, it's resting, it's de-stressing. But it's also a new part of health. You can say spiritual part of your health. The spiritual part of your health, you can say, is getting to know you, the true you. Like really understanding who you are instead of what the world tells you who you are, or your parents tell you who you are, or someone else tells you who you are, but knowing who you really are. That's another part of health, because that is in the brain, because the brain controls everything. So how you think will create a cascade of reactions, physiological reactions in your body. Like, for example, if I had this mentor that told me, we were in this workshop, he told me, close your eyes, and he said, put your hand out. And then imagine I just put a lemon on your hand. Now, get a knife and just cut that lemon, right, and open it up and squeeze that lemon. You see all those juices come out. And then he asked, how many of you were already salivating? But was there really a lemon in your hand? No. See, it's in the brain. That shows you how powerful the brain is. So what you think about yourself will manifest physiologically in your physical body. And so that part is a core component of health that many people neglect.
Yeah, it certainly is. I believe in a lot of that, and actually I've gone through that practice. It's interesting. I wonder, was that an IPEC coaching program that you were in?
It was Joel Bauer. Okay, I believe that was his name, Joel Bauer. He's a stage performance coach. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. It's a good one. I've actually experienced that one. It's pretty neat when you see what the body's able to do and those feelings that we have. in your opening there, we talked about how you help coach and mentor physicians' assistants and physicians and nurses and nurse practitioners. I have my family I have my uncle's a cardiologist, my father's a physician's assistant, my sister is a nurse, and then big shout out to my hopefully one day sister-in-law just passed her nursing exam. So, and then my other sister-in-law is actually also a nurse. So I got a lot of traditional medical practitioners in my family. And my father actually worked very closely with a chief of neurology. He was in the neurology department for many years. And so there's a lot of linkage there for you, with you, that is. What I'm interested in is how do you work with them? Because how do you work with them? How do you coach them with this, helping them see this mindset and this like holistic way of helping their patients? And the reason why I bring up this whole background is that because I do understand the business side of medicine in America. And my father's very open-minded. He meditates, he's spiritual. He always talks to me about herbal medicine and, doing saline cleanses on my nose when I have a sinus infection and things like that. So he's very open to it. So he sees a lot of the friction that occurs between your industry and his industry. And so I'm very interested in how you're able to kind of bridge that gap and carve your way in.
Yeah, so I'll speak on 2 points. How I get, majority of the neurologists within my city refer their patients to me because our specialty is neurology. Now, how did I get that to happen? Because I don't go in telling them that what they're doing is wrong. I don't make them wrong. I go in there saying, hey, I'm here to support you. Whatever you're doing, I'm here to support it. I'm here to support it and also to help it actually work even better. Right. So when you go in that perspective of, humbleness, right, humility, then people are more open, more apt to listening to what you say. And so then I've had, some lunches with some of the neurologists. I just ask them out, right, and just say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I would love to be able to support you and your practice and your patients to help them get better results. In the field of neurology, there's a lot of the disorders, there's nothing Western medicine can do. Like literally, there's nothing they can do to reverse it, right? So for example, neuropathy. Neuropathy is nerve damage. There's no medicine that can regenerate the nerves. They just don't have that yet, right? Even if they use stem cell, yes, that could, but it's freaking expensive, and not everybody can afford it. It's like, maybe 10, 20,000 a shot, and one shot, and you probably need to get like 5 shots, right, of the stem cell to work. And so in neurology, Chinese medicine actually can help restore the nerves. And so that's how, I basically go in to complement them, right? Now, in regards to training them, there are a few, not a lot, but my clinic, because it's the largest acupuncture clinic in Austin, I attract attention, right? And so I have physicians that are curious, physicians that are open to to acupuncture. It's like, what are you doing? So I have them come and just, shadow me. All, nurse practitioners, physician assistant, chiropractors, they all come and just shadow me. I actually had one physician do her rotation in my clinic. So at the end of, for those who don't know about medical residency and medical school, you go to medical school and you have to go through residency. You basically hop from one specialty to another. And then they have 1 month where they can choose their own specialty. And most people like to choose plastic surgery, right? I wonder why. But this one physician, actually, she was open to Chinese medicine, acupuncture. She asked me, she's like, can I do my last month of rotation in your clinic? And so I said, hell yeah. And so she did her whole rotation through Baylor College. Here's a medical school here. And yeah, so she followed me every day for 1 month. And so, again, there's not a lot of physicians that are open, but there are a few.
I love your approach too on working with others, in that you said, I'm here to support you. I think that's such a really great way to get them to open up and share what they're doing in their world, whether it's applying to your practice and their practice or anything else that anybody else is doing in business. Is that it takes the wall down and the defenses down, in that I'm here to support you. So share with me what you're doing. I'm here to support it, and I'm here to add to it. And you see if we could work together, make it better, which I really love. Neuropathy, and pardon the pun, but I'm going to do it intentionally, strikes a nerve with me. In that, for our listening audience, they can't see, but you might be able to see in the Zoom. I have nerve damage on my right shoulder here, and where I had a skiing accident. And my arm got dislocated and it ripped all the nerves. And when this happened back in 2004, when they did all the testing on me, all my nerve endings were shot and gone. So I can't grow muscle on my right shoulder. And it's something that bothers me, one, from a from just a visual aspect of like just not having a shoulder there. But I do get pain in my neck, my back, from it overcompensating for that lack of the muscle in the shoulder. I'm interested out of pure just selfish curiosity here, and maybe hopefully somebody else. What would you be able to? Is this what we're talking about? Am I on the same page as you here?
Yours is a different type of neuropathy.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, it's not a common one, right? So the common, I'll get back to to your situation. The common neuropathy that we treat are like usually in the hands and feet, right? The peripheral nerves. Usually, in the most common one we treat is called chemotherapy-induced neuropathy, because cancer is on the rise, chemotherapy is on the rise, and so neuropathy is on the rise, right? So we also treat some that are caused by surgeries. That's a common one. People who have back surgeries, and they fix the back, so to speak, but they damage the nerves to the foot or to the whole leg, and the surgeon says, "Oh, there's nothing they can do for this," right? So that's actually more correlated to yours. And so for yours, here's the thing: nerves can regenerate, but only the small fiber nerves. You have large fiber nerves and you have small fiber nerves. What does that mean? Large fiber nerves are just thick nerves. They got thick nerves, right? Those are the main nerves. Those don't regenerate. So if you have it severed, they're not going to regrow. But the tiny ones, and you still have peripheral, you still have tiny nerves all around your shoulder. Those can regenerate, right? So that's the good part. The not so good part, the downside is that they regenerate super slow, especially if you don't provide it with the right environment. So if you are not actively doing things to provide the right environment for those nerves to regrow, they probably won't regrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really great that you were able to kind of break that down too for anybody who's listening. In that, those larger nerves, obviously it's a different conversation compared to what you're actually able to do with those smaller nerves.
Yes.
I want to bring us back to your dad and your family and a little bit more about you and your story. So, is your father still living in Taiwan? Are your parents still there?
Yeah, my parents live in Taiwan.
And when did they bring you here, or when did you come here, and how did that all work out for you?
So they brought me here when I was 1.5 years old. I was born in Taipei, Taiwan, but they immigrated when I was 1.5 years old because they wanted to come to college, get their degree. They both got their master's. My dad got a master's in computer science. My mom got a master's in mathematics. And after my dad got his master's, he went back to Taiwan. But at that time, I was too old. I have an older sister also. We were too old to go back to Taiwan to go to regular school because we didn't know Chinese. Our Chinese was just far behind. So it was my mom, myself, and my older sister. We stayed here when my dad went back to Taiwan. So I grew up majority in Texas. I like to say I was raised Texan.
So what was that experience like, and how did it affect what you went into today? So obviously your heritage and your culture spawned this interest in acupuncture, as you talked about earlier, in that you were pretty much living what you end up doing today and are passionate about. But in terms of your entrepreneurial journey, what about that experience impacted your life today?
Yeah, my entrepreneurial journey was completely different because none of my parents, my sister, none of them are entrepreneurs. They all work for somebody, right, in the past, right? And so really the entrepreneur was forced upon me, or in the sense of I didn't have an option, because when I graduated from acupuncture school, I did actually have a job first. I was actually hired by a physician in a different city. And it was a physician with physical medicine. He wanted to create an integrative clinic. And so he had me build his acupuncture department. And so that job was an hour and a half away from where I lived. So I was driving, 3 hours every day just to go work 5 days a week. I never saw the sun. And so I did that for 6 months, and I was like, man, this ain't worth it. It's just like, I didn't want to live that type of life. All I saw was darkness, right? And so I came back to Austin and looked for another job, and there just were no jobs available at that time. This was in 2006, 2007, right? So I was like, well, it's just like, I didn't, actually, let me go back. Yeah, I got it mixed up. So I went there to work. I actually came back to Austin. There wasn't any jobs, so I decided I need to open a clinic. So I actually partnered up with another acupuncturist at that time. And so that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. And that was my first clinic with another partner. We did that for 8 months, and it was a complete failure. And so my very first entrepreneurial try was failure, right? And I pretty much, after 8 months, I said, hey, I'm giving up. I was like, I just threw in the towel. I'm like, I don't know how to make the acupuncture business work. And so at that time, my wife had a friend who was a nurse anesthetist, and they make great money, right? And so going from not making money to like, okay, what should I do now? Because the partnership disbanded, it didn't work out. We just, it's a complete failure. So I was like, okay, let me try switching careers. So I gave up on Chinese medicine at that time, and I had a bachelor's in biochemistry, and so I was going to pursue the path of nurse anesthetist. Well, I first need to have a bachelor's in nursing and become an RN, a registered nurse first, before I could apply for the nurse anesthetist. So I found a program that condensed 4 years of nursing into 1 year. And so I applied for that program, got into the program, and it was at Texas Tech University, which is 8 hours away from Austin.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so I went to the school, and my wife, she stayed here in Austin. And so it was just like, I was 8 hours away going to school, and she was here in Austin, and she just started her job. And I did that for 1 month, and then she and I talked, and we were like, no amount of money is worth being apart. So again, after 1 month of that school, I just said, okay, we're not doing this. I'm going to come back to Austin. I'm going to reopen an acupuncture clinic, this time by myself, and this time it has to work. There is no option. There is no option for failure. It has to work. And that's coming back, and that's when I opened my practice in 2007.
I have a lot of questions in that story there, but
yeah,
I wrote this down as soon as you said it. No amount of money is worth being apart.
Yeah.
I think, anybody who's listening it's like, think about that. Think about what you're passionate about. Think about who you love, who you care about, because I mean, you live that. You live that experience, and that's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. You know, having people like yourself on, and having so many different guests like yourself who are successful entrepreneurs and CEOs and all sorts, right? We talk about their business. We talk about how great life is and what they're doing to change the world today and everything. And we're going to talk about that and what you're doing and great things, right? But that failure, I mean, it was there, and every one of us experience failure, and to me, my understanding of failure, and it's also from the books that I've read and the people I've listened to, is that like if you're not failing, you're not trying, and so there's a lesson to be learned there. And so I'm interested in a couple things in terms of this failure. In that, could you pinpoint what led to this failure? Was there something? Was there writing on the wall? You know, what was the one sign that people can pay attention to, or at least that you noticed in that failure?
The biggest one was the relationship between my wife and myself. We started noticing that our relationship was not as strong as it was, right, initially. And I was getting irritated, and then she would get irritated. We would be in conflict, and it would be over the phone, right? And then I would drive back on the weekends, 8 hours one way. And it was like we were, instead of enjoying each other, we were fighting all the time. And it's just like, why are we doing this? Like, this is all for money. I'm like, is it worth it? Right? Is it worth, is our relationship going to last? So what if I make whatever amount of money that I was hoping to make? So what? Is that more, for me, it becomes, is that more important than my marriage, right? The woman of my dream that I,
pursued.
Not to get too off topic, but when I met her for the first time, 4 months later, after I first met her, I proposed to her.
Wow.
She was the woman of my dreams. I knew it immediately the first time I saw her, this is the person I'm going to marry. And so was I willing to give that up? Or was I willing to mess that up? Not give it up, mess it up, because of my inability, right, to make the acupuncture business work. So I came home, and I'm like, this is going to work. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to do whatever it takes. No more excuses. I'm going to make it work for the sake of our marriage, and for the sake of I would say for myself and our marriage.
So what were some of the things that you did differently in the new business compared to the old business that didn't work?
A lot. I would say one of the biggest things I did differently, and this is one of the keys to my success, I followed what Warren Buffett said. So Warren Buffett, he always says, when people are brave, be scared. When people are scared, be brave. So I interpreted it as, look at what the norm is. I looked at my peers and see what they were doing, and do the exact opposite. That was the biggest difference. My first clinic, I did what everybody else was doing. I did the same thing. That's why I was failing. So when I did my second one, so just to give you a little context, in my profession, most of our profession, they're not very successful. They're struggling, right? And so that's the reason why I said I looked at the norm and I did the exact opposite.
And to give some people some context too to what you're talking about here is that you've started it with $10K, which you borrowed from credit cards and everything, to which now 15 years later, it's one of the largest acupuncture clinics in Austin, Texas. So whatever you...
back in 2000, so I started in 2007 and we didn't have money, right? So going back a little further, growing up, my parents, we were not definitely not middle class. I remember as a kid, having to use food stamps. I don't know if you're familiar with food stamps. Mm-hmm. Back then, they were called food stamps. Today, they're called something else. Mm-hmm. But basically, government assisted. When you are not making enough income, you can get vouchers from the government to pay for your food, your housing, and so forth. I remember that's how I grew up. So and then fast forward to my marriage, both when I got married to my wife, that probably within a week, her parents lost everything. Her father-in-law did a business. My father-in-law did a business that failed drastically and lost everything. So after I got married, now I had the burden of now I have to not only support myself, my wife, but now also my in-laws. So that's the type of how I started my practice. So I literally had no money. So thankfully, I saw in the mail, there's this credit card that says, hey, $10,000 loan, you don't have to pay it back for 1 year. And I used that money to start my practice.
Wow. That's incredible. What was the business that your father-in-law had started?
I think it's some type of manufacturing business. I'm not too sure.
Okay. So yeah. when you started this new practice, one of the things that we had talked about or that you wrote about in your intake form here was about your superpower. And in this new practice, you started uncovering this superpower. And so many of us attribute superpowers to a feeling or something from whatever childhood experience or whatever it is. But your superpower is a pretty interesting one. And so I'm going to leave it to you to share with everybody.
I think I was talking about the ability to simplify, right?
Simplify and automate.
Complex, yes. And so as I started building the business, right, I knew actually early on that I wanted multiple clinics. I knew from the beginning when I started, I don't want just one clinic, right? Because I have a mission of helping 1 million people. One clinic is never going to help 1 million people. So I knew I wanted multiple clinics. Whether it's a franchise, or I have no idea. But in order to do that, I needed duplication. So in order to duplicate, I needed to simplify, and that's when I started building my practice. I started realizing. Actually, my wife told me this because I thought everybody should be able to do this. Everybody should be able to communicate, complex medical terms to the layperson, and where the layperson 100% understands what you're talking about, right? I thought everybody knew how to do it. And same with business, like how to simplify processes, systems. I thought everybody knew every business owner knew how to do that. And my wife's like, no, it comes easy to you. And then it was like, realization, that's my superpower. And so I created an automated system, and fast forward 14, 15 years, my practice is run on an automated system that no medical clinic thinks it would work. Like there's no other model similar to what I'm doing with my model in my clinic right now.
How long did it take to get that process going?
Well, a long time. It didn't start overnight. I started doing that on year 2. So, probably over 10 years.
So year 2, what did you start doing? You started documenting?
Documenting. I started documenting processes. I started documenting things that worked so I could duplicate it.
Yeah, you and I were talking earlier when you were listening to some of the past podcast episodes, and Jeff Tomaszewski talks about that with his health and fitness business in terms of documenting the processes and moving forward. It's such a big piece to being able to expand. And I think so many people fall short of documenting. I've learned that myself with just my sales team, in that just documenting what they're doing, their processes, and it helps them actually when I'm able to document it and give it to them. I have a salesperson over at Den10, insurance salesperson, and she was asking me about prospecting. She was asking me about markets, and I've probably had a conversation with her about it probably about 5 times, maybe more, right? Like 5 times that I can remember that I specifically sat down with her for an hour long and went through every question that she had. And then outside of that, then all the different meetings and trainings that we do, right? And still, it was like nothing was coming through, and still she had more questions. And I was talking with my coach about it, and I was like, I'm not understanding. Like, I've met with her so many times, and she's telling me that we're not meeting enough and this and that. And I'm like, I don't know what to do different. And she just said, well, are you documenting it? And I said, well, I mean, I document that we're having a meeting. She's like, yeah, but are you documenting the processes that you're sharing? And I said, no. And right after that conversation with my coach, what we did was, this is what's great about Zoom is I said, you know what, from now on, those conversations that we have, we're going to hit record on Zoom.
Yep.
And we're going to record them. And then I'm going to email you the notes and I'm going to email you the file. And I started doing that. And it was like a 180 for her. Like I started seeing just a tremendous change. And it was like, I didn't tell her anything new. I told her the same things I had been telling her, but it's documented. The process is there. She can go back to it. She can see it. It's clear. And as you can imagine, and your head is nodding, so please expand on this. She's able to take it on her own and start expanding on it herself. Yeah.
And so a lot of people think that your team members don't want instruction, like a step-by-step instruction. That's the complete opposite. Your team members, they will feel the most confident when they know exactly what to do. Because when they know exactly what to do, they can produce the result. And when they produce the result, they're going to be happy. They're going to be confident. They're going to be producing. And how do you get them to be able to do that consistently, right? Because no team member wants to produce results sporadically. Everybody wants to win every single moment. And the way to do that is to have a consistent process. Like on my team, every one of my team members has a checklist. Like they have a daily checklist. They need to fill it out every single day, and that may seem cumbersome, but at the end of the day, it helps them produce consistent results, which will make them happy, right? And because if they're happy, they're producing results. The owner, you're going to be happy because they're generating results. It's a win-win-win for everybody. So documentation, duplication, whether you want to have multiple businesses or franchises or whatever, a chain, it doesn't really matter. But if you just want your employees, your team members to be happy, have a documented process, and that is what they mean by setting your employees up for success.
In that documented process, because I think for me, I know other people might have a different experience in this. The concern is, well, I might document it wrong, right? Or I know that right now we're using this certain technology and it might change, or I plan on changing it, or whatever it is, right? It's that the process is going to change, and so I'm interested in your response to that of how do we take action to document when knowing that there might be change involved?
Yeah, it's really about setting expectations. So when I hire new people, even in my team members, I tell them, here's a checklist that you're going to follow every day. But here's the thing, it's always going to change. So be ready for it, because it will never stay the same.
Yeah, and it's so good to do that, because like when you set that expectation that it's going to change, now my assumption too is that you're giving them some power in that too, of that they're a part of that change, right? They can improve it.
Well, here's how I document I'll tell you how I started documenting processes and how I do it now. Completely different. In the beginning, I did all the checklists. I created all the checklists. I created all the processes, and then I gave it to my team members. Now, I don't do any of that. Right now, is if there's an issue and we need to change a process, change the documentation, I will tell that person who has that process on their checklist, and I will tell them, okay, this is what I want you to change. Or if you're doing something differently and it's working, great, document it. So now it's my team members that are documenting exactly what they're doing.
That's a great way for accountability too.
Yes.
When you're doing all of this, you're obviously showing them that you, by doing it yourself originally, it's showing what everybody talks about in terms of leading by example. And you shared a lot about that, about leading by example. And so I'm interested in your leadership style at work and how you're able to get the most out of these employees, because you're working with so many different people now, and by the expansion that you have, how are you able to still empower your team and show leadership to them?
Yeah, so definitely I lead by example, and that's in every single aspect. I tell my team members, I will never expect them to do anything I have never personally done myself. So when I started my clinic, I was a one-person show. So I was the receptionist, the janitor, the acupuncturist, the marketer. I did everything. So I know exactly what they're going through. And I created the whole systems, right? So that in regards to what they do in their position, I can tell them, I can confidently tell them, I've been there, done that. And so if there is something new that, I've never done, and I will always do it first, and then instruct my team to do it. So I lead by example. In regards to how to keep them, I would say inspired, right? Motivation is self-motivation. Nobody can motivate you but yourself.
Right.
So, but other people can inspire you. So one of the big things, I made a lot of mistakes on this. Early on, the biggest mistakes that I made with team members was I had them focus on the clinic's goals, the clinic's mission, the clinic's goals, which were in essence my goals, right? That was probably the biggest mistake I made. Today, fast forward, I have, 10 times probably more than 10 times the team members. I think the most I've ever had was 8 team members. That was prior to COVID. Now I have, I think, 23 team members. The big difference today is I tell all my team members, when you join our team, my mission as a CEO is to focus on your goals. I don't want you focused. I don't want you. Mm-hmm. I don't want your main focus to be on the clinic's goals. I want your main focus to be on your own goals. That's what I want you to focus on. And that's also what I'm going to be focusing on. My mission is to help you achieve your professional, financial, and personal goals. Because I know if they are able to achieve their goals, this goes back to Zig Ziglar's thing again. If I help them achieve their goals, they will naturally help the clinic achieve the clinic's goals.
Yeah. I know Tony Robbins talks about that motivation versus inspiration, and that, it's like you can't, if you're tired and worn out and burnt out, you can't motivate anymore. There is no motivation. It is gone. And he obviously puts it a lot better. But when you're inspired, it just comes through you, and he breaks down the word inspiration in terms of in spirit, in your spirit, right? And that's huge. And like you said with your employees, it's the same thing. And I think that applies to every business out there. We know that it applies to every business out there, is that when we have inspired employees, you have motivated employees, and typically salespeople, it's motivated, right? It's sales driven, it's financially driven. Well, one, if they're really great stars and they're super motivated, they're going to go somewhere else where they can make more money, exactly. Right? And then the other thing is that if they're super motivated, they're motivated for that carrot. Once they get that carrot, then what? Now what? You gave them the carrot, they got the prize. Now they're gone. But when you inspire the team, it's totally different, because it's not really, of course, the financial success is there, as you said, but that's not the driving force. The driving force is sometimes the overall mission, the purpose of the company, how they're impacting their lives and their families. It just changes the game, and I think it's such a tremendous piece that you just touched on. Something that you're doing in terms of that is helping other businesses grow and increase their client results. And I might be a little confused by that, because you have several practices. So are you working with practices outside of your group that you've created, or is this like in terms of the group that you've created?
Yeah, I also have a separate company outside of my clinic. My clinic is Achieve Integrative Health. I also have a separate business where I am coaching. It's a coaching mentorship, a mentorship business where I mentor practitioners from all over the world. So I have practitioners from Australia, all over Australia, UK, Canada, and of course all over the US. So I help them, because my superpower is my automation systems. So I help them implement my automation systems into their practice so that they can use their practice to build the life that they want to live. Because one thing, here's especially with healthcare practitioners, they build a business, let's say they become successful, but they always live the life that their business provides them. okay, versus living the life that they want. It's different. So if their business is struggling, then they live a crappier life. If their business is good, then they live a better life. It's always in reaction to the business versus building a life that you want and using the business to help you build that life that you want. So that's what I help practitioners all over the world do.
And in that you asked them, and I got a quote here from you, is what is the one thing in what you do? It says it here is what is the one thing?
What is the one thing? I forgot what I wrote.
It's communication. You talk about communication here.
The communication. Yeah. The one thing I would say the one thing that that's the key to my systems and also the success of any type of business is communication. Whether it's communication to your customers, communication to the public, communication to your team members, it's all communication.
Yeah, I mean, I strongly believe in communication. I mean, having that open channel, it changes everything. And you know, Elon Musk talks about emailing and texting as much and as often as possible on a regular basis. And that's great. And I think that that's definitely one form of communication that should always be available. But to expand on that, is to actually pick up the phone and call somebody, is to actually walk down the hallway and go into their office or have a face-to-face at a diner or something. It changes the whole communication, especially when working on things that are very complex and that sometimes emotions get involved, right?
Oh, yeah. So that's, I'm glad you touched upon that. That's something that we do right now. This is a big reason why our clinic is the largest clinic in Austin, is because of communication. I like to call it the concierge. So I got this idea going to, hotels. Hotels, they have a concierge desk, right? Concierge service. I'm like, okay, why not have a concierge service in the health clinic? Because I've never heard of that before, right? No one's doing it. And no one's providing that service. So what does a concierge person do at a hotel? They provide you information. The higher-end hotels, they, do stuff for you, right? They help you coordinate stuff. They give you that extra, care. So I took that idea because my wife and I, we love the Four Seasons Hotel. They're known for their 5-star service, right? Internationally. And so I took that idea and I put it into my clinic. I was like, how can we do that? So now we provide that concierge service where it's like our patients get their own personal assistant. We help them, coordinate things. We make those communications. We contact them, text them, call them, email them all the time, even when they are not a patient of ours anymore. We go back and we call people and just say, hey, how are you doing? We just want to make sure you're still doing great. Or maybe someone that a lead contacted our office, never came in. We call them and ask them, hey, did you ever get help for that? Even if you're not coming to our clinic, do you still need help? Can we help you find that help? And this was also from an idea from Zappos. Zappos is also known for their customer service. There was an example I read in one of the Zappos books. And in Zappos, there was a customer that called into their customer service line. And Zappos back then sells mostly shoes, right? And so the customer rep was like, is there anything else I can help you with? And the customer was like, well, I was looking for a grill to buy, and I don't know if you can help me. And then the Zappos service rep was like, 1 second. And she went on Google and blah, 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 and searched, you can buy blah, 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 right? It's that extra. And that's what my team provides that no other clinic, I'm not even talking about acupuncture clinic, no medical clinic in my city provides that.
I think I know that Zappos story, and that I think they spent over an hour on the phone together, and she actually received like an internal Zappos reward of some sort from the management team and CEO because of this, going that extra mile.
Exactly.
And it means so much because it fosters customer loyalty. So many people, we started the conversation with branding and creating a brand for ourselves. And we work so hard on getting ourselves out there. I mean, that's why I have a podcast, right? Is to create a brand, is so that I can offer value to people. And we work so hard in creating these brands, your TikTok channel and so forth. And it's not easy work. It is hard work to create valuable content that we know people on the other end can receive and use and in their lives. But then many of us, not you and hopefully not myself, we forget about the retention part. How do we retain all those people that we worked so hard to brand ourselves to, for them to come walk through our doors? And I love that you're kind of closing the loop on that branding, is that it's going that extra mile and they're there for acupuncture, but what else can I provide for you? What else can I do for you? Who else can I get you in touch with? How else can I help you? I think it's just such a huge takeaway from the conversation that we're having today, and also closing the loop on branding.
Yeah. Through that I created something called the CARE system, CARE, CARE. So that's, every time that we have a down stat, we track a lot of statistics in my clinic. So we have a down stat. And so the first thing I ask my team is, where are we not caring enough? It always has to be about care. Again, going back to Zig Ziglar's quote, like I said, I live by that quote. Who are we not helping achieve their goals? Who are we not helping, caring enough for? That's where we need to find where we're dropping the ball and fix it.
So you brought up Zig Ziglar several times, Warren Buffett, Grant Cardone. This space of self-development or professional development, what about it? How did you get started in it? What about it intrigued you that you decided to dive in? And Zig Ziglar, I mean, he's before our time, right? So what about him inspired you to start listening to his audio or reading his books?
It was really I would say it was a pivotal point where, I was stuck. I had my practice grew exponentially, and then it plateaued, got stuck. And then I'm like, okay, what else do I need to do, right? I'm doing everything. And then it was at that moment, I think one of my mentors then introduced me to say, hey, if you're doing everything you need to do, then the problem, the source of the problem is easy. It's you, right? So until you take yourself to the next level, you will never surpass your plateau. And recently I learned this formula. It's called be, do, and have. And it makes perfect sense. It's all these years I've been doing this. Be, do, have means first, have is what you want. What is your goal? Okay? You imagine, I want to have this successful business. That's have. I have this successful business. Okay, well, in order to have that successful business, who is the person I need to be in order to have that business? Like, what qualities do I need? What skills do I need? What development do I need? That's the be. I need to be that person first before I could ever have it. Because if you're not that person, you won't know what to do. The doing part, what myself and most people focus on, is the doingness. The doing. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? That's the easy part. The hard part is the be part. Who do I need to be? And so that's when I started really getting to personal development. Like, okay, who do I need to be? Okay, I need to be a better leader. So I've also, read a lot of John Maxwell books, the law, the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership or something like that. I started listening to read. I just started just being a sponge to all that because I knew back then, I came to the realization I was not the person that I needed to be in order to have, a 7-figure acupuncture clinic. And so until I could become that person, what I wanted, I wasn't going to have. So that's when I started just doing personal development. This is probably 2014 2014, 2015, and I've never stopped then.
That's incredible. Yeah, I've heard a lot about John Maxwell. I need to start listening to some of his audio. I haven't dug into his world, but Zig Ziglar was one of my first of worlds that I dived into, and it's kind of neat when you pull up some of the old Zig Ziglar videos on YouTube, or Bob Proctor's a little bit after him, but same kind of like setup of those 70s.
Jim Rohn, I love Jim Rohn.
Yeah, and those suits, those like three-piece suits, and it's just so formal. It's so formal and so different. It's so cool, the contrast to see from what your motivational or self-development type speakers looked like back in the day, and then what they look like today in terms of like a t-shirt and jeans, and just that more casual feel, which I think just speaks to mirroring your audience and what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to be like. And if you want to be in a financial space, then it makes sense to probably wear a suit and tie and three-piece suit and really flaunt it. But if you're in the tech space, or maybe in the medical space or holistic space, you might want to be a little bit more casual. What I want to actually bring up before we kind of conclude this show is you're the author of Achieve Life of Wellness. And I've had a few authors on, but I never really got into their book. So it's something that I kind of want to make sure that I touch on with you, is about this book and what it speaks about, how people can access it, and what they might get from it.
Yeah, so they can get it on Amazon. It's on Amazon, and you'll see it's the subtitle is like a roadmap. So this book is a roadmap, right? It's not going to go into the details of exactly what to do, because I will have later on books for that. But it's just like, if you want to drive someplace, like I'm here in Texas, you're in New York, and I want to drive, let's say, I need to make a decision. Do I want to go to New York or not? If I don't make a decision that I want to go to New York, and I just start driving towards California, I will never hit New York. So this book is a roadmap to help guide you make that decision on where you want to go. Like, where do you want to go with your health? What do you envision your health to be like? Where do you want to go? Do you want to be a person, like I'll ask people randomly off the street, it's just talk about their health. And they're like, oh, I'm healthy. I'm 70-year-old, I'm healthy. And then I was like, okay, great. That's phenomenal. You look good, right? And then later on, they tell me they're on 10 medications, right? So everybody's definition of health is different. So you first need to define, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying you need to define yourself. What is your definition of health, or function? I like to use the word function. Health it's you can be functioning at 50%. People think they're healthy. And so what level of function do you want to be at? You need to decide that first. And this book hopefully will open people's eyes that you don't have to live what Big Pharma has defined health to look like. There is another option. You could, like my dad, who's 80 years old, on 0 medications, still hikes the mountains of Mongolia at least once a year before COVID with 30-year-olds and keeping up with, actually surpassing them. You could do that, right, if that's what you want. So don't think that there only is one definition of health. God built our bodies perfectly, majority of us. It was built perfectly. We just messed it up. And so what hopefully the book will tell you is that you can restore it. You can restore that God-given ability for your own body to heal itself and not be dependent upon any type of pills. And I'm not talking about medications only. I'm talking about supplements too. Supplements, I love supplements, but these days, so many people use supplements like medication just because it's natural, okay? It's still replacing a function. Your body does have the ability where it can restore its function. It can heal itself again. So hopefully my book will let people know that there are different options, and then they just need to choose.
Well, Well, thank you for sharing that and about the book. I like that analogy of like if trying to get to New York without a road map and you're on your way to California, well, then you're never going to get there. So it provides this really nice road map. I love that. And you're doing a lot of work to help others. You sit on the board for Austin Asian Community Health Initiative. I'm interested in that work and the work that you're also doing to help entrepreneurs move forward in their passions.
Yeah, so ACHI is what this acronym is, right? What it is it's an organization. So here in Austin, we have an Asian community, and a lot of them don't speak English. And when they go to doctor's appointments, they have no idea what the doctors are saying. And they can't communicate in English, so they can't tell the doctor what's going on. So if there's no communication, there's a whole lot of risk for medical emergencies, right? And so what this organization does is they send you for free a health navigator. That health navigator can help translate. So they translate. They can also transport you to and from your doctor's appointments or any type of physical therapy medical appointments. And so the most important part of it is that it helps bridge that communication gap that is missing, right? And that's why, I joined this board and highly believe in what they're doing. And, they're doing a great job. And then the second one is actually the mission. It's actually my wife and our mission. Like we were very fortunate. We worked very hard, produced a lot of great results. I was able to become financially free at the age of 41. I'm 46 today. And so during our time, once we kind of retired, we said we want to do exactly what we want to do. And one of the things that we do now is we want to create a nonprofit to help entrepreneurs similar to me, when I first started out, that have the drive, have the will, have the passion to help a lot of people to pay it forward, but they just don't have the money, the experience, the connections, and, the mentorship. I didn't have any of that early on. And if I did, I would be 10 times more successful than I am today. So this is my way, because back then when I first started, I was like, when I make it, I'm going to make sure I pay it forward, pay it back to people who are in similar situations as myself when I started off. Because I look for help. I look for help from within my own community, and I got rejected. And so I don't ever want that to happen to another person. And so our mission is to create that nonprofit to provide those people. Obviously, you have to qualify, but those people, we're going to provide you the resources to help you succeed faster. Because maybe you weren't born in a wealthy family. You didn't inherit millions of dollars. You didn't win the lottery, right? So we want to help those people in the exact same scenario that I was in.
That's beautiful. I love the work that you're doing. I love the work that you're, trying to help these different entrepreneurs. Is there any type of website that people can visit for any of those? And of course, they'll be in the show notes, but just for those audio listeners.
Yeah, I would say right now, because we haven't started the nonprofit, that is our mission.
Yep.
That's what keeps pushing us. But they can go to my clinic website, Achieve Integrative Health. They can find me, on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Instagram, I'm almost to 1 million followers also. I'm 960,000, I think. So they can find me through my clinic and contact me there. Yeah,
and it's go back to the personal development and some of the things that you and I study and so many else out there study, in that once you put it out there, then it's already starting to happen. And by speaking it in your community, with your wife, with your friends and family, and speaking it on the air here today, we know it's going to happen. And you're probably already doing it. It's just not formalized to where you want to see it, right? Yeah. And then the other place that people can visit for the Austin Asian Community Health Initiative is to go to aachi.org. And of course, that'll be in the show notes as well. As we conclude, I always like to know, what inspires you, what do you live by, what moves you forward. And for you, the quote that you decided to choose is that achieve your dream business. You can have everything you want in life if you just help enough people get what they want in life. And we've spoken about this so many times throughout the entire episode. But just to kind of put a finer point on it, do you want to just add a little bit more to that as we conclude here?
Yeah, it's all about, one of my core values is service above self. And service above self. Everybody can achieve their goals, their dreams that they want. And the quickest way, the best way, and also the more humanitarian way is to do it by helping someone else achieve their goals. So that's the thing that I live by. And I do want to appreciate, I do these podcasts because I do want to put my mission in regards to that nonprofit for entrepreneurs. So thank you for allowing me to put that mission out into the air for more people to hear. Is exactly like you said. When you put it out and the word spreads, it will come into fruition. So I'm very grateful for you to allow me to do that.
Yeah, and thank you for offering it. I know I'm going to reach out to you about it. I'm interested. But yeah, I mean, and just to add to what you just said there, and you said service above self, and that's definitely that's from the Rotarians and the Rotary Club, and you're a Rotarian, and you speak to them, and you've spoken for them. That is, and I'm a Toastmaster and a chamber member, and same here. And the reason why I'm saying all of this to everyone is that you don't have to be a millionaire to serve others. You don't have to have a $1 billion business. You don't have to be an entrepreneur or a C-suite executive to serve others. You can start just at home. You can start in your community. And there are so many non-for-profits like the Rotary, Toastmasters, Chamber of Commerce's, business associations, non-for-profits in your local community that you can just go knock on their door and they will open their arms to you, and you can start serving today. And I think it just goes back to what you had said before, in that being the person that you want to become. That be part is everything that we do in business and in life is to serve others. And it's like you said about your TikTok, is that once you start serving others, you're going to start being served. So I love that. I love your motto. I love that you were able to come on, and I'm grateful for you coming on today. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome. Appreciate it, Michael.
Cool, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Did you give your handle out? Just give it again one more time, just in case.
Yeah, it's at Achieve Integrative Health. So it's at Achieve Integrative Health. All over TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Awesome.
And then, of course, I'm gonna check you out on TikTok. I scroll on there every now and then. Thanks so much for coming on today. Everything will be in the show notes. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Michael Esposito Show. For show notes, video clips, and more episodes, go to michaelespositoinc.com/podcast. Thank you again to our sponsor, Den10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. That's DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den10, you're giving back on a global scale. This episode was produced by Uncle Mike at the iHeart Studios in Poughkeepsie. Special thanks to Lara Rodrian for the opportunity and my team at Michael Esposito Inc.